Okay, moving on to lesson 14, after putting our name and number in the corner, of course. We're just about finished with Module 1. We have a few more lessons. Most of them are going to be building off of what we do in this lesson. This will be lesson 14. So Module 1, lesson 14. Dividing a decimal by a whole number. Dividing a decimal by a whole number. Roman numeral 10 plus 4 more, which is going to be 1 less than 5. So xiv. Roman numeral 14. Now, the procedure for this isn't necessarily super long, but it does take up a lot of space, so we are going to dive straight into procedure today. If you need to brush up on the vocabulary that we talked about previously, dividend, divisor, and quotient, I suggest you check lesson 13. So again, let's dive right in. The procedure. Today we are going to do the standard algorithm. Okay. We've used some other ways before. We have played with place value and things like that, but for now, this is the division that is most commonly taught, the standard algorithm. This is what you will probably do most often. Okay, let's get that focused in and begin. Step 1. First thing you're going to do is what I ask you to do for almost everything. Write the problem vertically. Write the problem vertically. Most textbooks, most tests will give you an expression to start. In this case, I am going to give you 52 and 8/10 divided by 3. On the left-hand side, this is our dividend. Again, this is our number that we are breaking up into smaller pieces. And our divisor, the second number, tells us how many pieces it is that we're breaking up. So 52 and 8/10 broken up into 3 pieces. Now we need to write this vertically. And to write it vertically, we are going to draw our little, I always call it a division hut. I'm sure there is a technical mathematical term for it, but I don't know what it is. I've looked it up and I can't find it. So this symbol, which again I will refer to as the division hut, the dividend goes inside. Now, if you have your numbers written out as an expression like this, it's the first number. The first number is going to go inside. But I want to be careful with that. If you're working with a word problem, something like that, the number that goes on the inside is the dividend. The number that goes on the inside is whatever you are breaking up into smaller pieces. Okay. Divisor goes on the outside. And there we go. Our quotient will go up here, but obviously we're not quite there yet. Step 2. Step 2. Okay. Now, this is something I always push for. Not every teacher may ask for this, but I think it's important. Before you continue, before we actually start doing division like you are used to, write a decimal point. Write a decimal point in the quotient. There's that word again. Okay, I'll slide it over so that shows up. Write a decimal point in the quotient directly above the decimal point in the dividend. Okay. Try to fix my N there. It is very important that you write the decimal point directly above. You go straight up. So I'll go ahead and underline that with my straight edge, since it's super important. Write a decimal point in the quotient directly above the decimal point in the dividend. So what does that look like? Well, I'm going to go ahead and copy down my division HUD again. 52 and 8/10 divided by 3. Here's my decimal point in the dividend. Bring it straight up immediately. Do it. Now this may seem silly, like I'm spending a lot of time on this, but it is very, very important. You have to make sure that you are keeping that decimal point in the same spot. That is going to keep all the place values where they're supposed to be. Okay? Feel free to not spend forever adding shadows to your do it, but I am going to do it because I want you to remember this. Always carry that up and carry it up right away. Don't wait until the end. I know some teachers, they teach you wait till the end, and everybody does it differently, but I'm going to stress, do it right away. Graph paper, I think I might have said, if not, graph paper makes that super easy. You just pull it right up that line. Okay. Now, for step 3, we need to kind of revisit the steps for division, for long division. You are going to begin at the left and divide. Begin at the left and divide normally. Let me put that down here so there's more room. Divide normally, keeping all your places, keeping all places lined up. Now this is another one that I'm going to underline because it is super important that you keep these things lined up. Graph paper is life. Graph paper is victory. Graph paper will make this super easy. The notes, because you have your notebook and you're writing on lined paper, I do them on lined paper, but really, we should be doing this on graph paper. And in class, you will be. Okay. Let's copy down my problem one final time. 52 and 8/10 divided by 3. I am going to remember this time. I am going to bring that decimal straight up. Then I'm going to start dividing. I like to use a little piece of paper or an index card, so I'm only looking at one column at a time. And I ask 5 divided by 3. How many times will 3 go into 5? Now really, we know this isn't 5. It's 5 tens, because it's in the tens place. So if I had 5 $10 bills, and I wanted to share them with 3 people, could I do that? Yeah, I can do that. I can give each person 1 bill. Now some of you may already be recognizing, but I'll have stuff left over. That's true. Let's get to that. 3 will go into 5 one time, because 1 times 3 is 3, and that is less than 5, so that works. Let's say that I give each of these people 1 $10 bill. So 1 times 3 is 3. When I take that away, I should be left with 2 $10 bills, right? 5 minus 3 is 2. Now I slide this over, and I bring down the next number. So there are my 2 tens, and hey, I've got 2 ones also. Can I share that with 3 people? $22. Yes, I can. I can give each person 7 single dollar bills. 7 ones, basically. If I do that, 7 times 3 is 21, and I can subtract that from the 22 that I had. Okay, there's a 1. I just have 1 single dollar left over. Now when I slide over into the decimal places in the tenths, This part might be a little less clear. A tenth of a dollar. Think about what you need 10 of. What 10 coins make a dollar? This would be dimes. This is 8 dimes. Okay, bring it on down. Now I am not going to try to bring the decimal point down. I already have it up here. That's fine. This is like saying I have 18 dimes. So 3 people, how many would they get? 18 divided by 3. That would be 6. 6 times 3, there's 18. Subtract it out, and there we go. I move this over. There's nothing else to drop, so we should be done. Now, I keep talking about money and dollars and all this kind of nonsense. However you remember this, there are different ways. I know some people like to do divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, or dad, mom, sister, brother. Whatever works for you, whatever helps you remember. After we've worked it out, and I'm going to go ahead and slide this up so that we have room at the bottom, not a lot of room. Step 4. Okay. Step 4, check and record your answer. Check and record your answer. Now, one of the easiest ways to do this, although we haven't talked about it too much right yet, is to take whatever quotient we just came up with. Remember, our quotient was 17.6, 17 and 6/10. Take that quotient, multiply it times the divisor, and that should give you your dividend. Okay. So 17.6 times 3. Quotient times dividend. Now, if you want to think about this as 176 tenths times 3, 176 times 3, 3 times 6 is 18, carry the 1. 3 times 7 is 21, 22, carry the 2. 3 times 1 is 3, 4, 5. So now I have 528 tenths. But hopefully we remember that that is the same as that. Last digit goes in the tenths place. Tenths would have a decimal right there. So, was that my original dividend? Yes, it was. Looks good. So therefore, and we're going to cram it in over here. I know we're just about out of space. 52 and 8/10. I must have been looking at that. 52 and 8/10 divided by 3, broken up into 3 groups, should be 17 and 6/10. Put a box around the whole thing just to make sure it's nice and clear, especially since, again, we kind of ran out of paper. That is one example of how you're doing your division. Now, we will do more in class. In 4th grade, you did long division, but again, I understand if it's been a little while. For right now, the decimal does not change much. The decimal, if you remember to bring it up immediately, you can basically forget about it. Well, until the end, until you're recording your answer. Just make sure that you are being very careful to keep things lined up. Use graph paper, or if you turn your paper sideways this way, you can write your problem and use these columns to help you. Again, find a method that works for you as long as you're showing your work, taking your time, going nice and easy, nice and careful. Should work. All right, thank you, folks. Again, next time I see you in class, we'll continue practicing with division. Have a pleasant afternoon/evening.